From the NBA to the NFL, there's tons of questions or scenarios that could be answered or proposed. And whether you're on the pro side or the anti side, that's what we're going to figure out today. My co-host and I, last Thursday, we asked you guys to send some questions for us to answer. And for the 4th edition, I believe this is your first fan-led episode. And we have a handful of questions here to answer today, so thank you guys for reaching out. Of course, I'm joined by my co-host, Bakari Steve. How you feeling on this Tuesday morning?
Yeah, I feel good. There's been a lot of news in, both leagues that we're excited to cover, as well as your questions. So, I'm ready to get to it.
Well, this is your early reminder that if you do enjoy what you're seeing / hearing, support us down below. Hit that like, hit that subscribe button, because we're growing at a rapid pace. And we just had a video close to 2,000 views. So go ahead and support us down below. Without further ado, I'm your co-host, Owen Stiftar. Let's get into this list of news, and then we'll get into your guys' questions. We're going to start here with Derek Carr. Of course, he signed a 4-year, $150 million deal with the Saints yesterday after being released by the Las Vegas Raiders. The Saints last year, they went 7-10, with a carousel of subpar quarterbacks. Whether if it was Andy Dalton or Jameis Winston for 2 games, they were still 7-10, fringe playoff team in that horrible NFC South division. But now they have Carr, and I wanted to do my research. Derek Carr, he has a 44% career win percentage, which is not good. But on average, every season, the Saints are getting 3,900 passing yards, 24 touchdowns, and 11 picks. What's your outlook for this Saints team? Do you believe they're just division favorites? Because I believe Derek Carr is now the best quarterback in the division.
Yeah.
Do you believe they're division favorites? Do you believe they're Super Bowl contenders? Or do you think it's going to be another early offseason for the Saints fans?
They should be division favorites. There no longer is a Tom Brady in their division. I know there's
rumors that he's coming out again.
Exactly. There's more rumors around Tom Brady, but when is there not? But Derek Carr, he is the best QB in the division. But that's not saying much considering the talent that's there right now.
What is it? Kyle Trask for the Bucks.
Yeah.
You have Desmond Ritter.
Right.
And you have Sam Darnold.
Exactly. And it's either Sam Darnold or like PJ Walker for the Panthers. So
right.
They're definitely not Super Bowl contenders in my eyes. They like I said, they're going to win the division. They're not going to be in the offseason early. But I saw an interesting stat, kind of similar to what you just said. So in 2022, all of the Saints QBs combined who played, this was their stats. They had 66% completion percentage. They had basically 4,000 passing yards and a 24-14 touchdown to interception ratio,
which is pretty similar.
Yeah, and then you get to Derek Carr's stats. He had a 61% completion percentage, 3,500 yards, and a 24-14 touchdown to interception ratio. So you're plugging in based off the stats, you're plugging in somebody who's worse than all of the Saints QBs combined percentage. And we all know that that's all of the Saints QBs. But you look at it and you're kind of like, okay, so. Nothing stands out, nothing is eye-popping, but, we'll obviously have to see how he plays. And, I like Derek Carr, so hopefully he can, prove the doubters wrong, but it doesn't look too great.
Yeah, we got a lot of news to cover. I don't want to stay on this too long, but I do think that even if this division is, aside from Desmond Ritter, unless Atlanta gets Lamar Jackson, Desmond Ritter will most likely be their quarterback. We don't know what Tampa's going to do, and we're expecting Carolina to draft a younger guy. So this division should be the Saints to lose.
Yeah.
And I am excited for fantasy for Chris Olave. We're seeing him with Derek Carr now. That will be very exciting here for this Saints team in the future. But around the NFL, like I said, it's been crazy, as we mentioned in the intro.
Yeah.
But I'm going to read off a list of the stuff that's been happening. Just stop me on one of these topics if you do want to say something, or just, elaborate on it. But Derrick Henry, he's now on the trade block for the Titans. Devin White, linebacker for the Bucks, he's off the trade market for the Bucks. Daniel Jones and the Giants are still trying to get a deal done, but at 4 o'clock today, if they don't get a deal done, the Giants are expected to franchise tag Daniel Jones.
And I want to touch on that real quick. That's kind of crazy that the Daniel Jones and Giants contract, negotiations, because that first, extension that they offered him, I think, what was it, right after their playoffs
yes.
games?
Yeah.
I mean, considering what Daniel Jones had been, especially prior to this past season, considering that they were trying to give him the money that they were, I didn't think, it was too out of the question that Daniel Jones would, accept something like that. But he's really bet, it kind of feels like he's more so betting on himself. What did they say? He wanted like 45 a year.
Yeah, he wants about $45 million a year, which to me, after only having one good year of production, is insane.
It's almost like, Geno Smith getting $52 million in his first year.
Yeah, I didn't even mention that. We could talk about that. But yeah, if you guys didn't know, Geno Smith, he got a 3-year extension yesterday. But over half of his contract, which is $52 million, he's going to get in year one for next year for the Seahawks. So it looks like the Seahawks are sticking on to Geno for at least the next year or two. Yeah. But is that all you want to say about the Giants?
Yeah, just I cut you off there. Basically, it's just kind of crazy that he's pretty much demanding so much money, like you said, and he's only had one good year. And it's not like he was an MVP candidate this year. Either, even though he did drastically improve and help get the Giants to the playoffs, but
I think it's definitely the coach more than the quarterback, and I hate to discredit Daniel Jones because he did have his best year, but we got a lot of that credit goes towards Brian Daboll more so than Daniel Jones. Also, Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs, and Tony Pollard are all expected to be franchise tagged today, which basically means that for Dallas, Dalton Schultz, their tight end, he's going to be a free agent because they won't have the money for Pollard and Schultz. The Rams, they're expected to release Leonard Floyd. Allen Robinson, the Rams granted him permission to seek a trade to go to a different team. Eric Kendricks, longtime linebacker for the Vikings, he just got released, which was very surprising to me.
Yeah.
But the NFL, they reinstated Calvin Ridley yesterday. Any thoughts about that?
Yeah, it'll definitely be fun to watch him on a Jags team that I think surprised people this year, especially considering that they did end up making it to the postseason. I think he'll definitely help out. Obviously, he'll help out Trevor Lawrence a lot, especially as Trevor Lawrence continues to come to age in the league and
continue to progress.
Exactly. Yeah. So it'll definitely help having that true number one receiver. Tons of upside for the Jags right now.
Yeah, I mean, I love Christian Kirk for them, but I think he's definitely more of a number 2 than a number 1 than what he was this year. I mean, as a Gators fan, I saw Calvin Ridley torch us for years, so we all know the talent that he is, and if you forgot, you're going to find out here in a couple months. But speaking of the Jazz, they're also expected to franchise tag Evan Ingram, or I believe they already did. So Evan Ingram will be back with the Jags next season. He had a career emergence year for them. And then the last thing is Kansas City's not expected to franchise tag their left tackle Orlando Brown, which they traded a first-round pick from the Ravens. So it'll be very interesting to see where he ends up if he's not back with the Chiefs. But moving over to some of the news that we have, Ja Morant, he's going to be suspended for at least 2 games after flashing a gun on Instagram Live. I guess my only thing here is I'm very frustrated with Ja Morant. Not only are you the franchise's best player, not only are you one of the biggest rising stars in the league, but when you go out there and you're flashing your guns and there's the report he beat up a 17-year-old in the mall.
Threatened mall security.
Right.
What else? He
flashed the gun at them, too?
Trained lasers, or had people train lasers on the Pacers training staff.
It's for Ja Morant. I mean, the biggest things, it's like all that stuff is childish. But not only, that's inner city lifestyle. And there are thousands and thousands of kids in this world that don't have a choice when they're growing up, and they're forced into that lifestyle, even if they want to. I guarantee you, if you ask all of the inner city kids if they want to swap spots with Ja Morant, 100% of the time they're going to say yes. There's kids that aren't as fortunate as Ja Morant. And not to mention, Ja Morant has $200 million plus on the table here with an extension coming up soon. Yeah. So it's why waste why even risk the generational wealth?
Already too.
He did?
I think so.
Okay. Well, I don't know. I guess why risk the generational wealth that you could have, that you could be bringing in? And, I mean, in a way, it's kind of disrespecting the inner city kids that don't have a choice for that lifestyle. Ja Morant, he's very wealthy. He doesn't need to live that or portray that lifestyle.
Yeah, and I agree with you. And it's weird too because you could literally go on the internet and, Twitter, whatever you have, and you could, by all accounts, see that Ja Morant, he didn't necessarily even grow up in that environment. He had two supporting, parents, sibling. He had, his sister. They did everything they could to get him to where he is right now, and he's just, basically acting a fool. And it's not like he's had these problems since he's entered the league. It's like the more fame he's gotten, the more money he's gotten, the more endorsements he's gotten, the bigger of a, I don't even know what to call it.
A star, I guess.
I don't know. Maybe he's just being really idiotic, doing things that he has no business doing. I mean, you see players like Allen Iverson or, Steven Jackson, Jalen Rose.
Gilbert
Arenas. Like, these are players who, Allen Iverson has stated before he wished he would have got certain people out of his life way before he hit a certain point of fame in the league. Jalen Rose was saying, the other day, he's like, I was Ja Morant. But, with these, Ja Morant didn't come from those same environments necessarily. And, like you said, he's getting, I think $231 million potentially. He just had his own signature shoe.
Yeah, I didn't mention that, yeah.
Yeah, and this is just the team mandated suspension, that he's going to be out at least 2 games. The league is doing an investigation right now, as well as the, Colorado police. He could very well have the same suspension, if not worse, than Gilbert Arenas had back in 2009, because they're going to, really dig into how did he get a gun all the way to a nightclub in Colorado when he had to get to the team facility, and then, get on a team plane, go to the Denver arena. And he did all of this after a loss. So
yeah, very quick. I just want to interrupt you. It's I misspoke earlier. Well, he was originally suspended the 2 games, but now I believe he's suspended indefinitely until they figure out this with the Colorado police and the NBA does their investigation. And like you mentioned with Gilbert Arenas, he was suspended for the second half of the year, basically.
And that was in mid-December, so this is terrible timing for the Grizzlies. As
number 2 seed in the West.
Exactly, and they've already been struggling. As of late, ever since Ja said I'm fine in the West, they really went on a downward spiral. And if they didn't start the season off so successfully, you could really see them. You could see them get lost in the trenches with teams like the Warriors or even like the Lakers, Pelicans, Kings, like all these teams that are now gaining ground.
Yeah, and I would hate to see him miss a lot of time, and especially miss playoff time. But if that's what the NBA does, or if that's what they have to do, by all means do it, because there's no reason to be acting the way that Ja Morant is.
For sure, yeah.
And he's 22, by the way. It's not like he's 18. He's 22. He should know by now to.
But yeah, he's like I said, he's been in the league, for a while, and it's you kind of start noticing on the smaller stuff when he's like, we run up the chimney, we don't duck no smoke. But that's just how certain people, especially who grew up in that environment, kind of speak on things. But for Ja, it always kind of seemed corny. A lot of people, kind of associate the word corny with Ja because. You could always tell when it's artificial and when it's real.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the Grizzlies, even more bad news for them. A couple days ago, Brandon Clark, he tore his Achilles in that game against Denver, and he's going to be out for the season. On the season, I believe he averages about 10 points and 5 rebounds. His production offensively has gone down, actually, in his career, but, another depth piece for them. They're losing here as they're struggling.
Yeah, like I said before, this is just a bad time for Grizzlies fans. They're not a good road team. They're good at home, but, they're not a good road team. Desmond Bane has really improved. So has Jaren Jackson Jr., but I don't think those be enough, especially if Ja gets suspended, maybe the rest of the season. You lose Brandon Clark. This team is going to be an easy first-round exit. And they really won't have a chance to show what they've been trying to show to people, I guess, since last year when Golden State beat them.
Yeah, we talked about it last Tuesday, where we were talking about how stacked these play-in teams were, and I wouldn't be surprised now if we get like a Clippers team that falls into the play-in and they're the number 7 seed, and they go in and they take down this Grizzlies team in a 7-game series.
Yeah.
But moving forward to the Eastern Conference, where we have Goran Dragic, he signed a deal for the rest of the season with the Milwaukee Bucks after being bought out from the Chicago Bulls. I guess, what are your just quick thoughts about it? To me, I don't know where he finds minutes with Drew Holiday and Javon Carter, But, I mean, what are your quick thoughts about it?
Yeah, I wish he would have retired, so my predictions on the last, or whenever we talked about it, came to true. But, I agree with you. He's probably just going to be there, I guess, for veteran leadership or whatever teams like these days. But
injuries can happen anytime.
Yeah, so. I mean, he's a two-way traffic cone at this point in his career. So.
Yeah, I can't see him playing much in the playoffs.
Yeah.
But moving over to Paolo Banchero, kind of hating on him here, but just it's something that we want to bring to light and, talk about. But if you guys didn't know, in February, for the whole month, Paolo Banchero shot 1 of 33 from the three-point line, which is only 3%. Should we worry about Paolo Banchero, or is this just the rookie growing pains?
Yeah, this is the rookie growing pains, but, you could tell he's really expanded his game just from when he was at Duke. When he was at Duke, he was more of a low to high post player, especially because he played more of a traditional 4, and he worked a lot from the mid-range. He could hit the 3, but he didn't shoot as many. This season, you're really seeing him take on more of a small forward and ball handling role.
Right.
For this team, they rely on him for a lot of their scoring. And then when you watch him, he does a lot of his work from the mid range. He kind of has a game similar to a Carmelo Anthony because he'll get into good mid range shots or easy close shots because he's so much taller and stronger than everybody. But in 2 or 3 years, we could be talking about how he's one of the best scorers in the league because he really does have that potential.
Yeah, I mean, with how dominant he's been, I wouldn't be surprised if this Magic team does go out and maybe get another star or two around him and maybe jumpstart their rebuild. But, a lot of questions to answer in Orlando. But again,
they've been playing good this year, so.
Yeah, showing a lot of promise. The record might not, reflect that, but, you just want to see progression.
Right.
And, there's a lot of questions in Orlando, but they're okay. Paolo, no worries. It's just the rookie struggles. But on this day, we're going to look throughout NBA history on March 7th, some of the historical dates and historical performances. You can kick us off here in 1974.
Yeah, so in 1974, the New Orleans Jazz, who later moved to Utah, became the NBA's 18th franchise. So I don't know how many people out there knew that the Jazz weren't always in Utah, but, early days, they were in New Orleans.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird stuff like that. Like we mentioned it last episode on March 2nd with the Philadelphia Warriors having Wilt. There's a lot of those weird combinations that today are different. But in 1995, Dominique Wilkins of the Boston Celtics scored 19 points in a loss at New York. But in those 19 points, he crossed the 25,000 career points plateau, which at the time he was the 9th player in history to reach that mark.
Yeah, in 1996, Magic Johnson became the second NBA player to register 10,000 career assists, and I can't remember. I don't know if I can't remember correctly. With Magic's career, but this might have been after he came back for a while.
I believe so.
Yeah, and if Magic didn't have to retire early, he definitely would have blew right past the assist record.
Yeah. It would have been close with him and John Stockton.
Yeah, it would have been close, but he definitely would have had a little bit of wiggle room. He definitely would have got it because Magic he could get you 20 and 10 in his sleep. So
right. And then we move forward to 2001, where the Phoenix Suns retired the number 7 jersey, who was famously worn by Kevin Johnson. Kevin Johnson played for the team for 12 seasons, and he retired number 6 on the all-time NBA's assist list.
Oh, I didn't know he was that high.
I didn't know until now.
And in 2017, Russell Westbrook of the Oklahoma City Thunder scored 58 points in a loss to Portland. Those post KD Thunder teams were as a Russ fan, they were a nightmare to watch. Russ try and go out and give it his all, and then even though this is when KD was still on the team.
Was that the second year, 2017? Oh no, this was with KD.
Yeah, this was with KD. But you know what? I remember one of those years KD had broke his foot, and
didn't KD sign with the Warriors in 2016? Oh, no, 2016 was the year the Cavs won. I'm slow. Yeah. That was 2018, I think. So,
yeah.
My apologies.
Yeah, it's because, the Warriors won in 2017. So,
right.
Russ, he would have, these crazy games of like 30, 17, and 16. And the Thunder they were fighting for their lives out there. But,
Yeah, I think I misspoke again. I think it was after that Cavs championship that KD did sign with them.
Yeah, 16. So
it would have been the summer of.
Yeah.
I know it was on July 4th, basically.
Yeah.
But, and that's another thing I really want to talk about is, like, for Russell Westbrook, when we're reading this stuff, it's just funny because we see Westbrook of the Oklahoma City Thunder, where even though Russ has been on, like, 4 or 5 teams, when you say Russell Westbrook, you think of the Thunder.
There was a time I thought he was never going to leave. I thought he was going to be on a Thunder for his career. Yeah.
But then in 2017, the final one here, on the same day as Russell Westbrook had that 58-point game, Dirk became the sixth member of the 30,000 career point, club in a win over the Lakers where Kobe was sitting. And if you guys know the infamous clip where Dirk hit the late game fadeaway and Kobe tapped him on his butt, but Dirk had passed 30,000 career points. That is all going to do it for the, performances for today. As we move forward to the fan questions that you guys sent in. Again, we asked you guys last Thursday. And if you have me over on the Instagram, if you guys followed our account, you would have seen the instructions how to do it. But we asked you guys to send some questions for today's show, whether it was NBA, NFL, or other. But yeah, we're excited. We have about 10 questions here for you. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to move forward. I think we're going to touch on the NFL news first and then move over to the NBA. But the first question comes in. It's thoughts on Lamar Jackson being sent to Washington. Adam Schefter on a podcast recently, whether if he was joking or not, but he said that if Lamar Jackson were to be traded, it was going to be to Washington. So as a Lamar Jackson fan, just quick thoughts about it.
Yeah, if you took the team from Washington and placed them in like Dallas or any other city that wasn't the Commanders, and we all know what's going on with like Dan Snyder having to sell a team in the facility.
Right.
If you took that team and just put them as a different team, I wouldn't have a problem with it, because when you look at it, they do have, they have Brian Robinson, Jahan Dotson, Terry McLaurin, yeah. So, and
Great
they have a good
too.
defense too. And in Baltimore, we couldn't really see Lamar just be a traditional QB. Obviously, it's not his style, but we didn't really get to see him showcase his arm talent. He would occasionally flash it, when he had to. But, we all know that they are a run-first offense. They are always, top 3 and top 5 in the league in rushing. And, when Lamar goes down, they take a hit in their offensive production. We all know that. But, I really, I wouldn't mind him, going to Washington, just because we would be able to see a different side. Obviously, if he has the money, there's no doubt in my mind he didn't play in the playoffs this year or the rest of the season because he was somewhat holding out, late season holdout.
Mm-hmm.
But if he has his contract secured, I think we see a different. We see him elevate his game even more, similar to like Jalen Hurts did. This season with his passing, but there's no doubt in my mind that Lamar can elevate on a team like Washington.
Yeah, I've been noted to say on this podcast that Lamar is a top 10 quarterback, and I argued that he was a top 5 quarterback in this league. I believe in the talent of Lamar Jackson, and as you mentioned, with Greg Roman there in Baltimore, they weren't a pass-heavy offense. They were more so let's read option, let's zone read, and occasionally on the third or fourth down, we're going to pass to Mark Andrews. That was basically their team. I do, at this point, even though Baltimore would bring in a new offensive coordinator, just with the team construction and Lamar's been, he's not getting his money, I wouldn't mind Lamar going to another team. Even though it is Washington and Dan Snyder's there, when you have pieces like Jonathan Allen and Chase Young and the talented and explosive offense that Washington does have, I believe Lamar going to Washington could be very interesting. And plus, I'm a Browns fan. I don't want to play Lamar twice a year. I'd rather play Tyler Huntley, to be completely honest with you.
Pro Bowler Tyler Huntley. Get his name right.
I guess, charity is a wonderful thing. But Lamar Jackson to Washington, to me, makes sense. To you, not so much. But,
I would like him. Like I said, I'm just more so like, oh, man, it's Washington Commanders, given everything that they're going through right now. But, obviously from a talent perspective, I wouldn't mind it. And you even have players like, who was it, Rashad Bateman that spoke out the other day against the GM, saying, don't blame the receivers, don't blame Lamar Jackson. You got to start putting some more blame on yourselves. And, the GM was right, but so was Rashad Bateman. There's a lot of blame pointing going around in Baltimore, and it just doesn't look great right now. Any situation, would be better than probably what Lamar's in right now.
Yeah, coming out of Minnesota, out of college, Rashad Bateman was one of the most highly, coveted prospects. What was it, 2 years ago when he was drafted? Everybody was trying to get Rashad Bateman, and so I say that because I want people to know he's not a bum.
Right.
Exactly. He's a good receiver, and he broke multiple records at Minnesota. So for a receiver like that to come to the NFL and just be kind of like you can get 50 catches a year, it's kind of disrespectful.
Yeah.
Especially because we all, fans and everybody always complains that Lamar doesn't have help at the receiver position.
Exactly.
But a lot of it was the game plan. And hopefully we see something different this year, wherever it is. And hopefully he gets his money because, as I mentioned earlier, he can be franchise tagged before 4 o'clock today. And if he's not franchise tagged, expect Lamar to be on a different team. But moving over to another quarterback here, but this time Aaron Rodgers. What is the best fit for Aaron Rodgers? He just came back from his darkness retreat, and he basically said that he was going to make a decision after he returned, but we're still a week or two after that retreat, and he still hasn't made a decision.
Yeah, I think I might have saw somewhere that he had spoke to the team and they were looking for trade offers at the moment. I believe I could be.
No, you're probably
wrong.
right.
But for Aaron Rodgers, it's kind of hard, especially given how old he is. He definitely still has the arm talent. He has the talent. He's Aaron Rodgers. He is that man. He could go to another team and really elevate how they play. But Aaron Rodgers, he always comes with those character issues. Is he really a coach's type of player? Not really. And it kind of just comes down to a point where, okay, what team will really want to take him and fight through everything you need to fight through when you have Aaron Rodgers at QB? And when I say that, you mean like off the field drama, things he might say, team chemistry issues.
Right.
And it kind of just seems like Green Bay has, even to this point, they already said that they've had enough. It to me, the best fit, I don't know if I can name a team. It would just more so have to be, a team that's willing to accept everything that comes with having a player like Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point there you ended off with, because something I'm interested in is, okay, here, we'll put it out there. The team he's most linked to is the Las Vegas Raiders.
Right.
That is because they have Darren Waller. They have an okay offensive line. They have Josh Jacobs, who they just franchise tagged, I believe. They have Devontae Adams, who he was with in Green Bay for many years. And, and I think Nathaniel Hackett's also over there in Las Vegas. So when Aaron Rodgers last won MVP, Nathaniel Hackett was his offensive coordinator. Mm-hmm. So a lot of things are pointing towards Las Vegas. But here's the thing is, like what you said, is they're going to have to take everything on. So Aaron Rodgers just signed that new contract.
Right.
If a team were to trade for him, there's going to be a big cap hit for this Packers team.
They just released Derek Carr too, so they're
already paying him. So the Raiders would have to pay. Well, they already have to pay that cap hit for Carr. They're going to have to pay. Most times when you trade a player who just signed a new contract, the team who's getting the player will pay almost all of the cap hit, and then they'll have to trade for him and pay him still. So the Raiders are going to have to pay that cap hit of Rodgers, which is over $40 million, and then they're going to have to probably pay him the 40-something mil he gets every single season.
Right.
So at that point, I mean, the Raiders got to think that team is set then. If you're giving $80 million out in one day, in one trade, plus draft capital, so you really got to believe you're going, like, this is the final piece. With all that being said, as a Jordan Love fan and fanatic, I love Jordan Love as a prospect. I still believe he has the potential to be arguably the best quarterback in that class. That's crazy to say now that we've seen Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert, but Jordan Love has all the tools to be a mid-tier quarterback, we'll say, or a top 10 quarterback. He just needs the opportunity. He's shown flashes, and as a Jordan Love fan, get Rodgers to Las Vegas. It's Jordan Love time in Green Bay. But moving on here, we're going to talk about the dog pound, the Cleveland Browns. As we all know, we are Cleveland Browns fans. And the question comes in, it's what are your expectations for the Browns this season? Who should they target in the free agency or the draft? What is your outlook for the Browns here in 2023?
Yeah, so I believe we've been linked to Jesse Bates as of late. We just released John Johnson. What was it? The day or two ago.
2 days ago. Yep.
Yeah. So with the Browns, I think I've been a David Njoku fan ever since he had the severe drop problems when he rookie in second year. But I've been a David Njoku fan. I'm glad we have him. We obviously have Amari Cooper on the offensive side. We have, Nick Chubb. We have DPJ, Donovan Peoples-Jones. I think we just need a second we need a true number 2 receiver. We need to really set, who we have as our playmakers and give them all specific roles because, Anthony Schwartz is the reason we have Deshaun Watson right now.
Yeah.
He gets Baker hurt. Baker plays bad all during his last year. We say, we need a new quarterback, and we pull off a Deshaun Watson trade. But we just don't have the wide receiver depth to keep going. If one of our playmakers goes down, it's almost a struggle from there on out. And on defense, we need interior defensive linemen to help out Myles Garrett. We just drafted Perrion Winfrey and
I want a way better year for Perrion Winfrey.
Yeah, I did too. Yeah, we need more interior defensive linemen. Obviously, Jadeveon Clowney, he was his execution was, or his play last year was poor, I guess to put it simply. He kind of just seemed like he quit on the team from about the midway point. But as far as the Browns go, we need more safety, or we need better safety play too. Grant Delpit, he's been in busted coverage a lot. John Johnson, same thing. How many times do you look up, we give up a big play, and those two are kind of looking around like, oh, what just happened? So with the Browns, we need safety help. Jesse Bates would definitely help with that. We need to probably focus our 2nd and 3rd round picks on interior line or linebacker play.
Yes, yes.
And we can see where we can go from there. I feel like we need to fix our defensive side definitely before we focus on our offensive side because we still do have big names. So
yeah, I mean Deshaun. That's a really good point you sent it off with. We do have Deshaun Watson. We're paying a quarterback $230 million. When you're paying a guy like that, you expect him to carry the load offensively.
Right.
But an interesting stat I did see before we get back into it is the Browns have missed the playoffs 30 times in the franchise's last 33 seasons. So basically, I'll say this. I think the Browns have been in the playoffs once in our lifetime, or twice, right? But, basically I'm going to say this Browns team, we have questions up and down the roster, along with the coaching staff that's very questionable. This is a very big year for Kevin Stefanski, a very big year for Deshaun Watson, even though that he's just coming back from a suspension. It's a very big year for him because of the money that we're paying him.
And you saw flashes last year, too, where he definitely
started off rough. But
yeah, he was really picking up his groove. So,
but, I mean, that was expected. I talked about it a lot, that when you take 800 days off of any professional sport, you got to expect some rust.
Right.
But, as you said, we just released John Johnson. He's out of the door. I want us to cut Grant Delpit. Even though we need defensive back play, I guess get rid of those two guys. And, we tried that. Get something new. Get something new that we believe in, I guess, on the back end. And there's also news that Deshaun Watson, on that big contract, he's willing to restructure it. Last year we only paid him $1 million because we structured it that way and the NFL hated us for it. But he's willing to restructure his contract, which is great for us because we are in a bit of a salary cap hole. And getting the extra money is going to help us in the long term. And you mentioned it. Get some interior play, get some trenches play. I would love to see an Eric Kendricks pick up. I would love to see a Tremaine Edmonds pick up if there's any way we can pry him away from the Bills. But the biggest name here for me is Daron Payne. We talked about the Redskins, or not the Redskins, I apologize. I don't know why I said that. They were the football team, then the Commanders. But the Commanders, yes, the Commanders. We talked about them earlier. But Daron Payne, he's up for free agency. They already have too much money wrapped into their D-line in Washington, so they're not going to bring him back. I'd love to bring in Daron Payne to help our trenches play out. But also, re-sign Amari Cooper. I believe if we don't re-sign him, we can get a second-round pick for him, but re-sign Amari Cooper. Indy's future. This comes in from a Colts fan, which I didn't know we had, but, welcome. What should the Colts do this offseason? I'm sick of the veteran quarterbacks. And basically, I'm going to say this, they have the number 4 pick in the draft, and they're the biggest favorite to trade up for that Bears number 1 overall pick. But, the Colts, they've made it their mission to pick up quarterbacks or trade for quarterbacks that are past their prime, and they hope that these old quarterbacks can save their franchise. Whether if it was Phillip Rivers or Carson Wentz or Matt Ryan, I understand the frustration from Colts fans because they are just recycling used products. But I think it's time. Make the trade, get your guy, whether if it's any of these 4 quarterbacks on the screen or if you want to go for I guess, later round guy.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think they should trade for the number 1 pick. And at that point, it just comes down to, Do you want to take, Anthony Richardson, who, people probably wouldn't say he's the most polished QB right now, but if you give him time, which the Colts, if they're going to take Anthony Richardson, they got to know that that's what they're going to have to give him, which is the time. Then they can develop him and really he can be a really good quarterback. Or do you want to take somebody who's more polished like Bryce Young, even though Bryce Young has his height concerns? He was listed at 6'1" at Alabama, and come to find out he's 5'10", 5'11". Yeah, me personally, if I'm the Colts and I don't take AR-15, I probably take C.J. Stroud, just because C.J. Stroud, he's been killing it in the combine too, from everything he's doing to his answers and intellect, and he was really good for Ohio State, especially during our college football our college football playoff game, which we unfortunately lost. But like you said, any one of these QBs on the screen will definitely be a step in the right direction for Indy, and you'll probably see drastic improvement even just based off of that going into next season.
Yeah, I mean, last time the Colts were in this position where they had a top pick and they were able to draft their guy, they got Andrew Luck. He retired way earlier than we all thought, because of personal reasons and the O-line play, but they have that chance again. And I've been a big fan here. I'm not a Bama fan. I hate Bama. As a Gator fan, it might come as a surprise, but Bryce Young is the best quarterback in this class to me. Even though he is 5'10", 185, or whatever he is, you can put on muscle, you can put on weight. You can't add intelligence, at least not, extremely, not in a rapid pace as you can with weight.
Right.
But give me Bryce Young here. If I'm them, trade up for a guy that has won big games and big moments, and Bryce Young is the only guy up here that's done that. And, AR-15, he probably has the most potential out of these guys. C.J. Stroud's right there with AR-15. But Bryce Young, he's the most polished quarterback. I think he's the best quarterback in this class. And why not start your rebuild here with a guy that you know what you're getting out of him?
Yeah.
But for the next one, we're going to move over to the NBA questions, where how much should we worry about the LA Clippers? I believe they're only 1-5 with the Russell Westbrook in their lineup. And, how much should we worry about this team? They just got a big win the other night against the Grizzlies. What are your thoughts here? Because we both had them as title favorites here in the NBA.
Yeah, I don't think we should worry about. It's funny because the Clippers are a type of team, like, I don't think you should worry until it's over, until it's really just over, until they're at home the rest of the playoffs or whatever, or don't make the play-in, or lose in the play-in or whatever. They're 3-7 in the last 10. We knew that getting Russ acclimated with the team and everything would take some time. Obviously, there are some games that they should have won. They should have probably won a double overtime game versus the Kings. They probably should have beat the Nuggets. They should have beat the Timberwolves the other night. And a lot of people are blaming Russ. Paul George has owned up to he hasn't playing at the standard, the all-star standard that he sets for himself. And during that win versus the Grizzlies, he finished with 45-11. Like I said before, Kawhi has really returned to form, and I didn't really think he was going to be able to hit it this season. I thought it would probably take an additional season.
Right.
But he's really, playing like Kawhi. Paul George seems to finally get back on track. Russell Westbrook, he's definitely the playmaker that they need to push the pace. And like we said, the team made a lot of moves, a lot of small moves at the deadline. It was going to take time, but I don't think we should worry. I think they will actually hit their stride right before the playoffs and really be scary still, even though that they are 3-7 in our last 10.
Yeah, I think, with how the Warriors are playing and how the Mavericks are, I guess, I'm not sure, where are they, the 6th seed right now, 7th seed?
The Clippers?
Yeah, the Clippers.
They're the 8th seed.
So the 8th seed right now, and they're behind the Timberwolves, which I expect the Timberwolves to drop.
Yeah.
I expect the Mavericks to not be better than the Clippers for the remainder of the year.
Right.
So hopefully the Clippers can be that 6th seed, but honestly, it might be better for them if they are that 7th seed and they play a Grizzlies team, which we don't know what's going to go on with the Grizzlies.
Right.
Regardless, they have the talent to probably beat anybody in the playoff series easily here. As a 6th seed, I mean, it seems like a lot of people are probably going to be fighting for that 6th seed to play the Kings in the first round. But we'll get into the playoff seeding and that stuff later. But the Clippers, I mean, aside from the Suns and the Warriors in the Western Conference, I don't see another team beating them 7 games in a series when you have Kawhi, when you have PG, and the other pieces they have.
Right, yeah.
Finishing the story. Can the Jazz finish their Cinderella story? Can they be the playoff team that they were looking like at one point in the season? I mean, they're 31-34, 9th in the Western Conference? Early in the year, weren't they like the 1 seed, like 15, 20 games in?
I think, yeah, they were like the three or four.
Yeah, I think at one point they were the 1 seed. As crazy as that does sound. Maybe it was only 10 games into the season. But this Jazz team, they play like a college basketball team. They don't have a set guy, but everybody can step up and I guess pick up for anybody who else is lacking. They play like a college basketball team is what I'm saying. And I don't believe they finished the story as far as making the playoffs. But I think they'll make the play-in and probably win a game. But the Jazz team, unfortunately, I don't think they make the playoffs.
Yeah, it's the West is really, really, really competitive. I probably agree with you. They kind of went on like a little slump. I think what was it right before the All-Star
Yes.
game. I think they fell all the way down to like 10th. They're 9th right now at 31-34. They're 4-6 in their last 10. But if you believe it or not, seeds 9 through 12 are all 15 games back of pretty much that
super
8th
close.
seed. Yeah. So, the Jazz are 31-34, but so are the Blazers, the Lakers, and the Pelicans, and I believe all those teams are definitely better than the Jazz. Like you said, they don't have a set guy. They're definitely a surprise team. They were supposed to be in a tank for Wemby's sweepstakes, but obviously that's not happening. It's really it's been a surprising story this season. Ultimately, I think that hurts their rebuild for the years to come, unless they can keep playing like this. For some years, which I don't think they can, especially with older guys like Jordan Clarkson on their roster. But they're enjoyable to watch. They're enjoyable to see. Take on the challenge every night. But unfortunately, just because you still do have the Mavericks, Clippers, and Trailblazers in that play-in with them, I don't think they make it.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess their biggest hope right now, and I'll say this is, it might sound crazy. I think they would rather have that 0.4% chance to get the number 1 seed than just to be a first-round exit.
Right.
So for this Jazz team, I think they've come down to reality. They're right now their best. I guess what they're hoping for is this Brandon Miller case to remain unsolved, and they can maybe grab a Brandon Miller 10th or 11th in the draft. We've seen big guys like that drop just out of nowhere because of situations off the court, and I think that's the Jazz biggest hope right now. Like a Brandon Miller fit with them. In that young core?
Yeah, and like you said, it would have to be if Brandon Miller drops. I believe that they're not going to, that there isn't really a case against Brandon Miller right now. So, and the way the league is now, they're looking for talent. And if they have all these issues resolved by the draft, which is in, June?
Yeah.
June or July, one of those two.
Of the April? I don't know.
Yeah,
that's the NFL.
If they do get a Brandon Miller, look out. They're going to be scary, pairing Brandon Miller on the wing with Lauri Markkanen.
And Walker Kessler and down low.
Exactly. That'll be scary, but,
we'll have to see.
Jazz, yeah.
Yeah. Returning stars. This one might be the best question I think we got, so shout out to you if you do remember. But my question to you here is, which returning star will have the bigger impact? Zion Williamson with the Pelicans, who once were the number 1 seed in the Western Conference, or I guess Zion or Carl Anthony Towns for the Minnesota Timberwolves, who they were a top 3 seed at one point.
Yeah,
He hasn't played in a while, but
yeah.
he should be returning. We don't have a timetable for either of these guys to return, but I guess who will return or who will have the bigger impact when they do return?
I think it will obviously be Zion, just because the Timberwolves, they were really, really, really struggling under that 2 big man system when they traded for Rudy Gobert. It really hindered Anthony Edwards' ability to get to the rim, and he's still improving on his outside game, which he's not really consistent from there yet. And you see, if you take just one of those bigs out, even though Rudy can't shoot the 3 like Karl Anthony Towns, he's a better interior presence. They traded D'Angelo Russell, and they're, surprising to some, they're 34-32.
Right.
I didn't think that their roster was good enough to be 34-32 in a competitive Western Conference, but Anthony Edwards was an All-Star this season for a reason.
Gobert's looked okay as of late.
Exactly, and so when Cat gets back, they're still going to have to figure out how to work in that big man system. They never figured it out. Cat was struggling at the 4, so they'll have to figure that out. For the Pelicans, Zion was their driving force. I think they were a top 3 seed when he was available. And, who knew a strained hamstring could keep you out this long? I mean, we saw James Harden. He was hobbled by one entire season, but when he got hurt, he still came back and tried to play, for a few games during that Milwaukee Bucks series in 2021 when he was on the Nets. So, it might be too little too late for Zion. If he comes back, I'm not sure that they, make the playoffs just because they are the 12th seed right now. The Lakers are playing good in LeBron's absence, and so are the Trailblazers. Damian Lillard's been killing it. So I'd say Zion would have the bigger impact, but this is a close call.
Yeah, I think so. You hit it right on the nose with that this Timberwolves team is actually picking it up as of late, and they're playing good without Karl-Anthony Towns. Where at one point this Pelicans team, before the Nuggets pulled away, this Nuggets team was the number 1 seed for a week or so, and ever since Zion's been out, I mean, this team's been on nothing but a downfall, and I think it has to be Zion. I think he has to have the bigger impact when he does come back, and a part of me is hoping they do lose a game in the play-in or win and become the 8th seed, because I would love to see a fully healthy Pelicans versus a Nuggets team in the first round. What is his Jokic going to be able to guard the 6'6" Zion? It'll be very interesting to see. But I think, Zion is my answer.
Yeah.
But speaking of the playoffs here, we've talked about it a little bit. If the playoffs started today, who would be, I guess, your favorite to win the finals? Or give me a finals matchup, and I guess we'll go from there.
My finals matchup, I would take Milwaukee coming out of the East.
Which I would have to agree.
Yeah, the Celtics, they've been struggling as of late. Even with Jason, when they were fully healthy, they still, all season long, they've had these issues of maintaining leads. The Cavs have came back 3 times against them this season.
I'm going to say this very quickly, not to mean to cut you off.
No, you're fine.
Cavs are now 7-0 in overtime games this season.
Yeah.
We just beat the Celtics. We're 3-1 against them this year.
Yeah. So, nobody in the... when the Nets had KD and Kyrie, they could obviously still make it out, but they don't have that anymore. James Harden and Joel Embiid, we know that their playoff success history hasn't been good, and I don't think their style of play is suitable for a long run in the playoffs. Milwaukee is the safest pick for me coming out of the East, especially because they're on a they're 9-1 in their last 10. They were on like a 14-game win,
16.
13. Oh wow, 16-game win streak. They actually just lost to Philly. But I'd say Milwaukee coming out of the East, and in the West, it'd be hard pressed for me. I wouldn't really pick. I think the Nuggets are a really good regular season team. They haven't had that playoff success, except for the bubble year. But there are a lot of different things going on in the bubble, as we all know. Out of the West, I'd probably say it's between the Suns, Clippers, or maybe the Warriors if they pick it up. Even though the Warriors did just lose in Steph's first game back, but if I had to go one team, I'd probably say Phoenix, because they have looked good in Kevin Durant's return. And you can't really bet against Kevin Durant or Devin Booker, especially because Devin Booker has really elevated his play this season as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of unfair that Kevin Durant is a system player now.
Yeah,
he's basically he doesn't have to be the main guy anymore. And the last time that was the case, they won 2 out of 3 championships over there in Golden State. But I'm going to agree with you. I think Milwaukee, I've been on record to say this is the best Milwaukee Bucks team of all time. And I said that 1 month into the year. I still believe it. I still believe this team is going to... It's surprisingly, I think they're going to easily come out of the East with the talent that they have. And Giannis, to continue to build his legacy, he's going to need more rings. So I believe the Bucks come out of the East. For the West, give me the Warriors. This is a surprise. If you asked me a month ago before the Russell Westbrook pickup, I say the Clippers. And you asked me before the Kevin Durant trade, I say the Clippers. But something right now, just with the Warriors being able to win without Steph Curry as of late, Steph Curry just came back and he's been Steph Curry. And you can only imagine he's going to get better. You're coming off that injury. So give me the Warriors. Nobody wants to play them in the playoffs. Nobody wants to play their system. Give me the Warriors and the Bucks, and the Warriors in their last dance with that that trio that they have over there in Golden State.
Yeah, and I don't mean to put anything out there for the Warriors, but an interesting stat that I'm just now looking at: they're 27-7 in their home games.
Yeah, terrible.
They're a terrible road team. They are 7-24. The only other teams in the West with single-digit wins on the road are the San Antonio Spurs, who are 16-49. They are 6-27 on the road. and the Rockets are 15-49, and they're also 6-27. That's
very alarming.
It's very, very alarming.
And
even the Hornets have more road wins than them.
And for that reason, I would take the Bucks to be my champion.
Yeah.
Would you agree, or would you take the Suns in your series?
The Suns now, I'd probably take the Suns in my series just because, we saw a Milwaukee and Phoenix finals that went to 6 games without Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant took a Nets team without Kyrie and without half of a James Harden to 7 games in an overtime against the Bucks. So when I look at it, I'm like, okay, we saw these two teams play already. What will be the equalizer? And I see Kevin Durant being the difference maker.
Yes.
I'd probably take Phoenix, but it really is hard to bet against this Bucks team. And especially if they get a good solid playoff run, Chris Middleton will be back to form.
Right.
Bobby Portis has been playing really good. Drew Holiday. But I believe that Devin Booker won't let what happened to him in the finals 2 years ago happen again. And Kevin Durant he is a finals MVP, a multiple-time finals MVP. So
it would definitely be hard to bet against the Suns with this Bucks team. But, they have the pieces. Giannis would get that Kevin Durant assignment, and that'd be very fun for us to watch as NBA fans.
Yeah.
But start bench cut. This was one of the interesting ones that we did, or I will say this, I did see this on Instagram. I wanted to bring it to the pod. But start bench cut, on the left side, we have Jaylen Brown, Jimmy Butler, and PG13, not PJ Washington, but PG13. Do we want to start there, or do we want to read off the second ones first? Do we want to start here with the forwards?
Yeah, we'll start with the forwards.
Okay. And do you have an answer here for a sec? Because to me, it really comes down to Jaylen Brown or Jimmy Butler. And that's really, it might be surprising, but I think that's who it comes down to for me.
Yeah, if I had to start bench or cut, I'd start. I'm a huge PG13 fan. I think everybody knows that by now. I've been a Paul George fan since probably since that series against the Heat. Yeah, I'd probably start Jaylen Brown. I actually just watched Jaylen Brown last night versus the Cavs, and he coming off a double overtime loss, he was still really good last night. This is a player who was the best player on his team during the final series when Jason Tatum was struggling. And, this is a really good Boston team as well. So Jaylen Brown, especially the way he's played this year, he gets the start for me. And it came down to between PG13 and Jimmy Butler for me. I like Jimmy Butler, but I probably have to give it to Paul George just because he is an all-star this season. He did keep this team afloat while Kawhi was out indefinitely with whatever he had going on lingering. He went on a little slump, but he just had 45 and 11 last night, or a couple of nights ago, in a must-win against the Timberwolves. And the Heat have really been struggling this year, and it's not Jimmy's fault. I'm not saying it's Jimmy's fault. He's been playing good this year, but I'd probably just give it to Paul George and cut Jimmy Butler.
I guess my question here is, what's the scenario? If we're talking about playoffs, I'm probably cutting Jaylen Brown and I'm keeping Jimmy Butler, even though Jaylen Brown was the best player on his finals team. Because we know in the playoffs, Jimmy Butler turns it up, and at one point he led a team of rookies and young players to the finals.
Yeah.
But if we're just speaking overall, I'm gonna have to agree. But I'm probably gonna start Paul George, have Jaylen Brown on the bench, and cut Jimmy Butler or trade him if we want to stay start bench trade. But I guess that's completely different. I'm probably, if it's playoffs, Jimmy Butler's coming off my bench. If it's not playoffs, just overall, give me Jaylen Brown off my bench.
Yeah.
Moving over to the guards, we have Donovan Mitchell, Devin Booker, and John Morant. Do you want to kick this one off, or I can do it if you would like?
I'll kick this one off as well.
All right, go ahead.
This comes down to the same question you just asked. Scenario: if this was just overall based on this season, Donovan Mitchell has been playing out of his mind. He's even said that this is the best he's felt and played probably in his career. Ja Morant, he is a special talent. Even with the off the court issues he has, he is Ja Morant. He is a special player. And Devin Booker, he's probably a top 3 shot maker in the league right now, shot creator, and to get his own spots. He really does have a little bit of that Kobe in him. But if I had to start bench or cut just based off of overall play, I'm starting Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell last night just got his 8th 40-point game of the season. He has a 71-point game to his name this year. He's had 50 once or twice.
Yeah.
He's been the most consistent player on the Cavs roster this year, and it's only his first year in Cleveland. He was an early season MVP candidate as well. He's kind of slowed down a little bit. He's had a few nagging injuries here and there, but he's been playing really special this year. I'd bring Devin Booker off my bench because, as I mentioned earlier, he's elevated his play this season. Not only is he a shot maker now, not only is he somebody that scores a lot of points, he makes his team better. And that was the thing in his early career. He'd score a lot, but his team was always, bottom of the conference. He's just a lot better. And Ja is a good player, but I feel like if he was on any other roster, especially earlier in his career, and he was putting up these same numbers, they really wouldn't translate to winning. He has a really good defense around him. He has a DPOY candidate, Jaren Jackson Jr., a good wing defender in Dylan Brooks, and a good backcourt mate in Desmond Bane that really, attributes to a lot of his success. Regular season. He hasn't had any playoff success. So that's what I do. Start Donovan Mitchell, bench Devin Booker, and cut Ja just based off of this season.
I think even overall or playoffs, my answer doesn't change because if we're speaking overall, we have to include the off-the-court stuff as well. And we know the stuff that's happened with Ja Morant this season. We talked about it earlier in the show. But my answer doesn't change. I'm going to probably start Devin Booker. I'm going to keep the two guys that have put up 70 points in a single game.
Yeah.
I'm going to start Devin Booker. He does have that Kobe in him. You touched on pretty much everything. He's really going to be that X factor for them, I think, in this playoff run for the Suns.
He's been terrific since he came back from injury, too.
Absolutely. And he's automatic. I mean, and then Donovan Mitchell. I mean, you touched on everything. I think this is probably his best overall season as a pro, without a doubt. And he's going to come off my bench. Yeah. But self-explanatory. And then the last question we have here is, what is your favorite part about the podcast? And I got this question from a family member, but what is your favorite part about doing the podcast?
My favorite part is
very
probably...
broad question, I will say that.
Yeah.
Cut you off.
Yeah, no, you're fine. There are a lot of good things I like about the podcast. I like being able to give my sports takes on a platform. I like being able to talk sports with my best friend as well. We've known each other since like second grade,
yeah.
And I think you're like 8 in second grade, and we're 20 years old now. There are a lot of different factors. I like helping you do this. We both want to share our knowledge about sports. I just like like I keep saying, I like sharing my opinions on a platform. I like the support. I like putting out. I like telling people, hey, me and my best friend, we do this podcast. It'd be great if you check it out, and they always do. I like the pride that when you know that you're doing something successful.
Yeah. I
like that feeling as well.
Yeah, and I mean, this question, I think I've answered it on a previous podcast or a previous fan-led show, but very quickly, I mean, like, I watch a lot of podcasts, whether it's The Old Man and the Three with JJ Redick,
yeah,
or Through the Wire. And that's my favorite podcast. It's
All
best.
the Smoke.
All the Smoke's another one. Or for me, the Creator Podcast, which is a motivational one, but I listen to a lot of podcasts and I listen to a lot of shows, and the idea to start this was to, hey, why not start it, see what we got with it, and then, I was pretty successful, about 50 or so subscribers, and then I brought Bakari on. I asked him, he was interested, and, when I get a chance to bring my best friend out to something that I love to do, and he was interested, it was a no-brainer. So be able to have him come onto the show, and since he's been here in the last 10 episodes, we've gained 33 subscribers. We had it this episode here on the screen. It's an old screenshot, but the predicting rest of season, that is now up to 1.8 thousand views. The support's been crazy ever since you've joined, and I can't thank you enough for that. Even though I know you probably don't think too much of it, but to be able to do something every single Tuesday and Thursday to. Well, first off, we both love sports. I've watched ESPN for my entire life.
Yeah.
To be able to have a platform and be able to spread my knowledge and my takes to the world, it's something that gets me up in the morning to get very excited to work on these things. And, these podcasts do take a lot of work visually and I guess just being here and performing. But, just to be able to do this twice a week, it's not inspirational, but it's exciting. And I wake up every morning excited to do that.
Yeah, and there aren't a lot of people who know sports more than me, but I wouldn't, I couldn't be any happier to do a podcast with the only other person I can think of that probably has more knowledge about sports than I do. So, I just love doing this. I love helping him out. When he reached out to me, of course I was interested. I might not have the, experience that he had and it, or whatever, but, I was willing to figure it out to do my part to help, help him be successful, help him, reach his dreams. I love doing it.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, we've gained 33 or so subscribers to this point. The views have been going up like crazy, and even though I do have radio experience, I was on the radio for a couple years there. I'm an 88.9, shout out, but I had experience. You didn't. So for you to come on here and perform the way you have, it's gotten a lot of great reception, and I'm a bit surprised, how comfortable you've been, but we're only going to get better. We're going to consistently drop these episodes as we have an exciting one Thursday. We'll get into it in a sec, but very excited to see what the future holds for this podcast. But if you're good, then that's really going to do it for today's show. Great. Thank you guys for reaching out with 10 amazing questions. This is probably the best batch of questions we've gotten so far. And until Thursday, Thursday we have, I'll have Bakari give you guys the preview, but another amazing episode with a special guest on this Thursday. So be on the lookout for that. And just continue to show love. If you guys enjoy what you're seeing and hearing, drop a like, drop a subscription. If you guys haven't already, it's free. Just go ahead and hit that big red button and follow my socials because we're updating that constantly now.
Yeah, and Thursday we're really excited to bring you guys. We loved our work that we did on our 2000s draft. We're even more excited for this upcoming episode. We have Thursdays when I say players like Steph Curry, LeBron James, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Jason Tatum as of late. We think of the 2010s. We think of a new era of basketball. Yeah. We think of threes more than we do of dunks. We think of high scoring,
6'5" centers.
Exactly. DeMarcus Cousins to me is a top 3 influential center because of what he brought to the game when big men weren't doing that. And that's what we have coming up. We're going to do our 2010s draft. We're excited to do this. We'll have some special things going on Thursday. So, make sure you tune in. We're really excited.
Yeah, new location for recording. So that's always exciting in itself. But that's going to do it. We'll see you guys Thursday. Sorry that this one kind of ran a little long, but that's just what happens when you have great talk going on. It is over an hour. But until Tuesday, stay happy, stay healthy. We're out.